In today's news, gambling is finally legalized in the BVI and tropical storm Laura forms.
Livestock owners urged to be in state of readiness for hurricane season, and disaster relief exercise on Norman Island and labeled a huge success. All this and more when 284 News returns.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
I think you need to clearly see what happened.
As far as what?
You and I, we decided we were gonna take our space. What happened?
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement in August. That's what I said.
An entanglement.
Yes. Yes.
An entanglement.
Yes.
A little entanglement never hurt nobody. For the month of August, enjoy double the fun when you activate a 2 GB data plan or any hero plan and get double data. But wait, man, we're making things even sweeter. We've got a deal even Jada can't resist. Sign up for Go Fast LTE and get your modem for only $149. The catch is, there's no contract required, but you'll definitely need the willpower to leave. So come get entangled with in August with the home team.
34 years and counting.
We ride together.
We die together. CCT
for life.
Welcome everybody. It's Friday, August 21st, 2020. A beautiful evening to each and every one of you. I'm Ron Grant.
And my name is Javon Wilson. So happy to be welcoming you to another great edition here, 284 News, right here in the beautiful BVI. Now,
Always.
Ron, lots to get over as we come down to the end of another amazing week in the BVI. Despite the circumstances, can we just agree, first of all, that it's still the best day to be alive?
And it is
lots
still the
going on.
most beautiful place to be living.
Right. So before we head into our newscast, we just want to update you guys. Following the updates on the 12th confirmed case of coronavirus right here in the BVI, lots of allegations have been circling, Ron. We look at the idea of smuggling. We look at the possibilities of mingling at the clubs, which we've been hearing about for a very long time over the last, 24 hours. Persons who have been exposed to those venues where supposedly or allegedly this person was out mingling are now asked to contact the BVI Health Services to get tested. And then we are hearing possibilities of a lockdown. And in the absence and in the silence of government, I think a lot of fears are up and about. I see persons are flocking the supermarkets. So we're not sure what's going to come out of that as yet.
Well, Jovan, as you mentioned, the unconfirmed reports, many updates from the general public, and these are unconfirmed reports. No confirmed reports coming out of the government of the Virgin Islands, particularly the Ministry of Health, but we see where a little bit of pandemonia has surfaced across the territory. Persons are flocking the supermarkets, but again, we want to encourage persons to stay calm, be cool and collected, and at the end of the day, make sure that their necessary requirements are in possession. However, doing so without causing a level of fear to both themselves and their families.
Absolutely. I know, Ron, the Minister of Health, Honorable Carvin Malone, did mention to media today that a government update is forthcoming. Hopefully by tonight, later tonight, we can get that update, of course, to update the public accordingly. But for now, viewers, just relax, take a breath. We will get past this. We're also following weather updates coming in this weekend. As we all know, Tropical Storm Laura has formed, of course, a development from the previous tropical depression. So that's definitely something we want to watch here. We have all the details later on in the newscast. And finally, Ron, legislation has been passed to support gambling in the British Virgin Islands.
Now, Jovan, that last piece with gambling and the confirmation of legislation has caused quite a conversation piece. We know many business owners and persons interested in that field have already begun making preparations, while we have members of the clergy and certain parts of the population who are against it. The legislation has finally been passed, and I think it's going to be an interesting conversation as we move towards integrating that or perhaps legally integrating that, I may say, into our territory. But ladies and gentlemen, we have so much more. Beginning on our local scene, the Cabinet of the Virgin Islands has given the approval for a special category of persons to enter the territory of the Virgin Islands from August 15th, providing the applications are submitted to the Ministers for Immigration and Health for approval. The special category includes dependents such as spouses and children of belongers, permanent residents, work permit holders, and work permit exemption holders. Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Andrew A. Foy, in a statement said his COVID-19 update phase 2 that the special category also includes persons employed by the government of the Virgin Islands, its statutory bodies, agencies, and borders. Now, teachers, including public and private, and persons who departed the territory for medical purposes and those who accompanied those persons. The Premier said applications are to be submitted by these persons to both ministers before they are allowed to enter the territory of the British Virgin Islands. Now, all other category of persons must apply by September 1st. Meanwhile, Acting Chief Immigration Officer Mr. Ian Penn said the department has been getting an increased amount of applications that are not accompanied by the approval letters from the Ministers of Labor and Health. Mr. Penn said in an official statement, and I quote, "I would like to inform the persons seeking to enter the territory before September 1st that their applications will not be processed unless they get the required approval by both ministers." He continued by saying, those persons that applied to the Immigration Department without the approval will be processed on September 1st when the prerequisite approval from the ministers is no longer needed. The Immigration Department continues to contribute to the security and prosperity, of course, of building a stronger and a better BVI by operating a fair but firm immigration control that regulates and facilitates the movement of people throughout the BVI borders with exercising sound judgment in the performance of its duties and ensuring that it responds to the needs of its customers in an efficient, effective, and courteous manner in accordance with the BVI immigration. Jovan, this is a quite interesting story because we see where locally this conversation has caused quite a stir. And once again, I must reiterate that we see where certain measures have been retracted. Many persons are questioning why the retraction, but at the end of the day, I must say that while the government of the Virgin Islands continue to do their best in making sure that measures are put in place to secure residents and Virgin Islanders, when we make decisions of such, we have to make it with a very cognizant approach, and particularly doing so with statistics. Now we see where the previous decision has been somehow retracted, and now we're seeing an official statement coming out of the government of the Virgin Islands, which really outlines who, what, and when.
And that's very important. I'm glad you mentioned statistics, Ron, because our decisions, like you said, or lightly reiterated, it has to be data-driven.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm just really happy to see us establishing a clear framework by which this process will take form. I know a lot of persons are questioning, who do I apply to? How do I begin this process? It's not very clear at this point. So I'm really happy to see, again, a framework being put into place, because the reality is a lot of people are still currently locked out regardless of what their legal status are as it relates to being in the BVI. Some of them are under very hard circumstances too, Ron. I'm really needing to get back into the territory. And as it relates to the BVI's track record, to the virus itself, I think we've had a pretty good track record. So we also want to reassure persons coming in that not only are they coming into a safe environment, but we also want to ensure that they do not retard the process upon repatriation to the BVI. We want to ensure that we follow all the health protocols. Persons who may need to be quarantined or isolated, of course, comply with those rules, because again, the BVI has done really well as it relates to containing the virus, and we want to keep it that way.
Well, once this story broke, Jovan, one of the things that some of our viewers voiced their concerns were, why was this not reiterated or considered prior to? There have been several allegations, unfortunately, of persons in prominent positions, whether it be nursing, teachers, who arrived at the Terence B. Lethem International Airport and were turned away. But now we see where the government of the Virgin Islands is seemingly paying a bit more attention to this particular cause and instrumentally saying that they must seek seek approval from the both government ministers. But many persons, many residents are wondering, why was this not considered prior to?
Definitely. Well, the situation is fluid, and that's what we continue to
Indeed.
hear. But like we said, we're very happy to see that there is a process now in place to facilitate repatriation of persons back into the BVI. Viewers, more good news. Gambling has now been legalized in the BVI following years of nationwide debate on whether the territory is even ready to move forward with this decision. Now, the act, which was collectively passed in the House of Assembly by all members without dissent in July, has now been approved by the Governor of the Virgin Islands, His Excellency Governor Jaspert. Now, viewers, the act, as we know it, seeks to provide for the establishment of the Gaming and Betting Control Commission, also known as the Commission, for the purpose of regulating the gaming and betting sectors, which are both on a global and national level very vulnerable to infiltration by money launderers and terrorist financing. The new legislation, which now falls under the portfolio of the Minister of Finance. And Ron, that's pretty interesting.
Yes.
Because initially that responsibility was initially under the Minister of Education and Culture.
Correct.
Now we see the Premier adopting this specific portfolio. And it will be serving now, as he says, as the newest revenue generator for the territory under their 2020 legislative agenda. And it's definitely one that the Premier himself has really high prospects for. I know a lot of people are placing bets that the most recent legislation, of course, passed will be a big winner for not only our residents, our tourists, but also our investors and as well as the BVI government. The act also opens new avenues for investment, as we know it, for entertainment, and will also seek to regulate and potentially create opportunities to establish new venues for previously illegal activity. It will also be welcome news when the cruise industry resumes as it relates to sailing back into Tortola Run, and as we seek to eventually reopen our borders when that time comes, because prior to the act, one of the things that we do know is that cruise ships opted not to dock overnight in the territory because of this little restriction. That's one fix, but also we also see the move to allow gambling and gaming. We also see it providing opportunity to expand sports betting, in particular.
Indeed.
The popular, local, and highly loved horse racing.
Indeed.
And as it relates to horse racing, we know for sure that this is culture. It's a part of who we are. And many have said that it's about time that legislative framework came into place to support it while enriching the economy. And I know for sure the president of the BVI Horse Racing Association, he's probably very, very happy about this, and the wider BVI as well, Ron.
Now, Kyla, sorry, Jovan, this piece of legislation, absolutely, and we go into but this piece of legislation is really important as we seek to kind of move forward with the trajectory of the Virgin Islands. Parimutuel betting and the legalization of gambling has been a conversation in the Virgin Islands for decades.
Yes.
And I want to say, I'll admit, it's probably been a conversation before you and I were even around. But nevertheless, we see where it's finally come to the table, and a lot of aspects have to be put in place. One being, of course, the parimutuel betting, particularly on the horse race track, where it finally puts into perspective the sport and allows persons who are not only horse owners but patrons of the horse racing facility to be able to legally bet. One of the things that we have to also look at is the whole issue of creating ticketing system, just like in the U.S. Virgin Islands where they have their system of legalized gambling. We also have to look at that. But most importantly, one of the points you raise as it pertains to the cruise ships, for many years, cruise ships have had to stay out of the waters for a certain time or just dock in the waters but not come into the territory by a certain time because of the fact that we don't have that legislation in process. Now again, many persons have spoken up against it, many in support, but we see where a legislation finally, and I must give the Foy administration kudos for almost being the single administration to have the guts and gala to finally put this legislation forward and at least present it. Many persons still feel as though they want to have an ear in it and to have a conversation and say how they feel, but I think as much as it is and much as we persons speak about the social ills that gambling comes with, we have to look at it economy, and particularly the Minister of Finance has spoken up as, in his opinion, of how he feels as though this will benefit the economy. Another interesting point is also what you mentioned in regards to this portfolio and this legislation now being under the Minister of Finance, whereas it was previously under the Minister of Education and Culture. So we see where things are shifting in a bit, but we will continue to follow this story, of course, to make sure that our residents are informed.
All right, Ron, still ahead, we have disaster relief exercise on Norman Island. We spoke about that a little bit last week. Well, it has been labeled a success, and we have all the details on that. And as well, the Department of Agriculture is now urging owners of livestock to be in a state of readiness as it relates to this hurricane season. All that and so much more when 284 News returns.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, we all know that we are in the midst of the hurricane season, which is, of course, started to be higher than average this time around. And while preparations are already underway, there's a kind reminder going out to the owners of livestock, horses, poultry, and rabbits who are now being urged to create or review disaster plans for their animals in their continued preparations for the season. Now, Director of the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, Mr. Theodore James, said animals can be injured by flooding, fire, winds, flying debris, and other dangers associated with the hurricane. He said protecting livestock during this time should be of major importance. Mr. James said, and I quote, "We may believe that animals are safer inside barns and pens, but in many circumstances, confinement takes away the animal's ability to protect themselves. Most animals are used to being outside in bad weather, and their instinct will drive them to seek shelter through trees and are also seeking higher grounds from floods." End of quote. Now, viewers, the director said that a disaster plan should be made to protect property, facilities, and animals. He said that a list must be created, including emergency telephone numbers of employees, neighbors and veterinarians, animal shelters, heavy equipment and trailer operators, feed suppliers, Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, their animal and plant inspection officer, and also local volunteers. This information, he said, should be written down and key persons presented with a copy. Other safety tips include making arrangements to move livestock no later than 72 hours or 3 days before landfall of a pending storm, ensuring that livestock fencing, gates, corrals, and other enclosures are in good conditions and repaired. The safest place for large animals is an open pasture clear of trees and objects that can be blown around by the wind. Livestock instinctively seeks higher ground and should be turned loose in large fenced pastures with access to high ground in the event of a flooding. You should also have a 2-week supply of feed, medicine, and other supplies stored in a safe location, protected against flooding and high wind. And also, you are advised to fill all water tanks and drums with water and stock up on basic emergency supplies such as bandages, topical antibiotics, and ropes to restrain those animals. In closing, the department said you should also secure or remove debris that might become a hazard in the event of winds, strap down feeders, trailers, propane tanks, and other items that can be missiles in strong wind. So viewers, here we see quite a number of tips on how to protect your livestock. And of course, if you want more information, you can feel free to visit the department's page on the government's website at bvi.gov.vg. Ron, I know we are in the heat of the hurricane season, and if it's one thing that Hurricanes Irma and Maria taught us is the fact that we cannot be laxed in our preparations to ensure that we not only reduce the level of casualties, but also the overall damages incurred during these disasters. So this is a very timely reminder from the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries to ensure that we are in a state of readiness should our animals be exposed or should anything bad happen.
Absolutely, and we don't want to be not prepared, because this is one issue that really tackled us in the events of Hurricanes Irma and Maria. We see where livestock owners and farmers really took a hit, so we want to make sure that we're as prepared as possible. Continuing on the local scene, the humanitarian aid and disaster relief exercise conducted on Norman Island over the weekend has been called a success. The exercise was led by the United Kingdom's task group in the Caribbean to ensure that in the event of a hurricane, RFA Argus and HMS Midway were able to land specialist teams and emergency items ashore in the BVI to respond and support in the immediate aftermath. Now, this exercise was also an opportunity for both ships to practice working together quickly, safely, and effectively should they need to deliver support to the people of the British Virgin Islands. His Excellency Governor Augustus J. U. Jaspert said, and I quote, "I am pleased to hear that the exercise was a success, although we all hope that the territory never needs to call on this support. It's imperative to make sure we're prepared for all eventualities, especially given the added risk around COVID-19. This exercise and the two ships' ongoing presence in the region is a strong signal of the UK's support for the BVI, for which I am grateful." He ended by saying RFA Second Officer Alex Fidul was a beach master during the exercise and managed the landing areas for the sea boats. He also said, "As beach master, I can help liaise between the land and the ship to ensure we are delivering aid and engaging support where it is most needed. This helps the operation run more smoothly." Now, the exercise commenced on Monday, August 17, with survey flights of Norman Island by the Wildcraft helicopter from 815 Naval Aircraft Squadron. Once sustainable landing sites were found, the helicopter moved members of the crisis response troop ashore. They included 24 Commando Royal Engineers, 47 Commando Royal Marines, and the Royal Navy Mobile Air Operations Team. Troops were also transferred to HMS Midway by sea boats before continuing on to conduct beach landings. Once ashore, the crisis response troop conducted immediate surveys of the area with their specialist equipment to assess any damages and report their findings to the command group on RFA Argus. Now, members of the troop included personnel trained in a variety of trades such as electricians, brakelayers, motor mechanisms, plumbing. We had some chainsaw operators who supported local communities with clearance of initial damage, in addition to providing help to re-establish vital infrastructure such as power lines and water supplies. Now, the government of the Virgin Islands, including the Ministry of Health and Social Development, worked closely with both ships to ensure full compliance with the territory's COVID-19 measures before the exercises took place. Prior to arriving in the BVI waters, all individuals disembarking for the exercise were aboard the RFA Argus board for 12 days, and upon arrival were tested for COVID-19 under the supervision of the Chief Executive Officer of the BVI Health Services Authority, Dr. Ronald Georges. Now, samples then flown back to Tortola to be assessed by the BVI Health Services Authority. So we see where, as it pertains to COVID-19, precautions were definitely taken. Members also adhered to strict on-board safety measures, including social distancing and proper hygiene practices. Individuals who disembarked from the ship were monitored and isolated upon the return of their cabins, thoroughly sterilized. Now, the ship disembarked territory waters on Wednesday, but will be on standby, which we are always glad to have them on standby in the region, should extra support be needed by the people of the BVI in the event of a hurricane. Boat ships are stocked with emergency aid from the UK government, including food, water, sanitation products, and medical supplies, along the equipment that can help clear and repair damages. Governor Jaspert and officials from the Department of Disaster Management will host hurricane preparedness meetings on Jost Van Dyke and Anegada later this week, and will meet with members of the local community, including resilience teams, to answer many questions and share the latest updates and give advice on hurricane preparedness. They are part of the ongoing extensive hurricane preparation team. And Jovan, this is something that we've been having a conversation with countless times. You and I and Kyla have often encouraged the persons of this territory to be aware that we are dealing with two dragons, for lack of a better phrase. Not
They're
only
parallels,
COVID-19,
absolutely.
but hurricane season. We're dealing with both of them at the same time. So the only way we could definitely tackle it is by being prepared, and we see where the United Kingdom is lending our assistance, and we're ever grateful.
And that support and reinforcement within their responsibility to the BVI, the United Kingdom, that is very important. Ron, like you said, we're dealing with two pandemics at the same time, basically. And it's really tough, especially as it relates to our mental health and our preparedness for this time. But I know this reinforcement, this support is really helping to alleviate a lot of those fears. Viewers, we have a lot more coming your way. Tropical storm Laura has formed, and we have all the details on what that means for the BVI, so stay tuned.
Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now, data from the NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicate that Tropical Depression 13 is now developed and is now a tropical storm Laura with maximum sustained winds of around 45 miles per hour. The aircraft also found that the center of Laura is located south of the previously estimated position. As a result, viewers, a tropical storm watch is still in effect for the British Virgin Islands. A tropical storm watch means that tropical storm conditions are possible within the watch area generally within 48 hours. Now at 5 a.m. today, the center of Tropical Depression 13, now Laura, was located near latitude 17.8 north, longitude 58.5 west, or approximately 385 miles east-southeast of the British Virgin Islands. The depression is moving towards the west-northwest near 21 miles per hour, and this motion is expected to continue for the next few days. Now on the forecast track, the depression is expected to move near or north of the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico on Saturday. That, of course, is tomorrow. Maximum winds sustained remain near 35 miles per hour with higher gusts. And as it relates to the impact, viewers, we can expect squalls and heavy rainfall of 3 to 6 inches through Sunday. Also, a possible storm surge on coastal roads, especially those on the southwesterly coast, as well as some windy conditions. They're saying those are possible later today into tomorrow, of course, Saturday. To ensure that everyone's updated, we are kindly reminding all of our viewers to go ahead, download the app, the DDM Alert app. If you haven't as yet, it's available in the Apple Store as well as on Google Play to receive daily updates of any of the hazards affecting the territory. And of course, to stay safe, to stay dry, and to stay watchful. We will get past this.
Most definitely, Jovan. As we said, it's hurricane season and we have to be as best prepared. Make sure you tune into 284 Media. Now, we're also covering updates over in the U.S. Virgin Islands as they continue to battle with COVID-19. A person who tested positive for the novel coronavirus was placed under quarantine, and 2 weeks after this, the person was cleared by the VI department. In paraphrasing, they basically went back to work, and now they have tested positive again, a second time. So it's interesting that we see where it's almost as though we're the tracking of the virus is beginning to play a huge role. Now, what's interesting about this, Jovan, in a statement, Governor Albert Bryan of the Virgin Islands, in detail, they basically said that it's up to private facilities. What we're seeing in the U.S. Virgin Islands is if a person was tested prior to, when it comes to them going back to work, they don't have to be tested. So far, they don't
Wow.
have to be tested. So we see where in this particular case, the employer requested that before the person returned to work, they have to be tested, and we see where that was positive. So we're continuing to follow it. We wish our brothers and sisters over in the U.S. Virgin Islands the very best, and we continue to wish you guys a wonderful weekend. We love you and continue to be safe. Get prepared. I'm Ron Grant.
And my name is Javon Wilson, wishing you a beautiful and safe weekend. Goodbye.
Happy Friday, guys. Bye-bye.